हेलो बच्चों, नमस्कार। मैं अमृता गुप्ता आपके अपने चैनल अमृता मैम क्लासेस पर आपका स्वागत करती हूँ। बच्चों, आज का हमारा टॉपिक है एनएमआर, विच इज़ आल्सो नोन एज न्यूक्लियर मैग्नेटिक रेजोनेंस स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी। आर मैग्नेटिक रेजोनेंस स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपिक (MRS) is a spectroscopic technique to observe the local magnetic fields around the atomic nuclei. The sample is placed in the magnetic field and the NMR signals is produced by excitations of the nuclei sample with radio waves in the nuclear magnetic resonance, which is detected with sensitive radio receivers. The intermolecular magnetic field around an atom is a molecules. Nuclei sample with radio waves in nuclear magnetic resonance, which detected the sensitive radio receivers. The molecular magnetic field around an atom is a molecule's change in the resonance frequency, thus giving across the details the electronic structures of the molecules and individual functional group. As the fields are unique and highly characteristic are individual compound in the modern organic chemistry practice, NMR spectroscopy is definitive method of the identify monomolecular organocompound. Similarly, biochemistry use in the NMR to identify the protein and other complex molecules beside identifications. NMR spectroscopy provides the detailed information about the structure, dynamics, reaction state, and chemical environment of molecules. The most common type of NMR are proton and carbon tera-NMR spectroscopy, but it is applicable to mix the kind of proton also. NMR spectra are unique, well-resolved, analytically trackable, and often highly predictable for small molecules. Different functional groups are obviously distinguishable, and identical functional groups with differing neighboring substitutes still give distinguishable signals. NMR has largely replaced traditional weight chemistry tests such as color rearrangement or typical chromatography for identifications. A disadvantage is that a relatively large amount, 2 to 50 milligram of a purified substance is required. Although it may be recovered though the workup, probably the sample should be dissolved in a solvent because NMR analysis of a solid requirement dedications. Magic angle spinning machines and may not give equally well resolved spectra. The time scale of NMR is relatively long and thus is not suitable for observing fast phenomena producing only an average spectrum, although the large amount. Correlation spectroscopy is the development of ordinary NMR. In two-dimensional NMR, the emission is centered around a single frequency and correlated resonance are observed. This allows identify the neighboring substitutes of the observed functional group, allowing unambiguous identification of a resonance. There are also more complex 3D and 4D methods and the variety of methods designed to suppress the amplified particular type of resonance. The nuclear over Hauser effect is spectroscopic. The relaxation of resonance is observed. NOE depend on the approximation of nuclei. Quantify the NOE is each molecule allows for the constructions of a three-dimensional model of a molecules. NMR spectrometers are relatively expensive. Universities usually have them, but they are less common in private companies. Between 2000 to 2015, the NMR spectrometers cost around 5 million. Modern NMR spectrometers have a very strong, large and expensive liquid helium cooled superconducting magnet. Because resolution directly depends on the magnetic field strength. Less expensive machines using permanent magnet and lower resolutions are also available, while giving the sufficient performance for the certain applications such as reaction monitoring and quick checking of the samples. There are even Theory of NMR. The external magnetic field is applied. The number of possible orientation calculated to I plus 1. Hydrogen have spin quantum number I equal to half and possible orientation is. What is the principle of NMR? The theory behind NMR comes from a spin of nucleus and it generated a magnetic field. Without an external applied magnetic field, the nuclear spin are random in the directions. If the external magnetic field is applied, the energy transfer is possible between ground state to excited state. When the spin returns to its ground state level, they absorb radio frequency. If the external magnetic field is applied, the number of possible orientation calculated by 2I plus 1. NMR estimation sampler holder, permanent magnet, magnetic coil, sweep generator, radio frequency transmitter, radio frequency receiver. NMR spectrum. The NMR spectrum is the plot of intensity of NMR signals versus magnetic field in reference to TMS. थैंक यू बच्चों, कल की क्लास को आगे कंटिन्यू करेंगे. थैंक यू सो मच.